Yo, what up guys, Raw Scalps here, and in this video I'm reviewing Mufasa the Lion King. And the director of this one is Barry Jenkins. You know, he's done Moonlight and a movie called If Beale Street Could Talk. So, yeah. And I was actually kind of surprised by the cast of this. They have Beyonce, they have Donald Glover, Seth Rogen obviously, and Aaron Pierre. Along with some other people, but I was surprised they had, you know, Beyonce and Donald Glover, like some pretty big names. But it kind of makes sense. You know, the movie's budget was around $200 million, and it's projected to make all of that back basically opening weekend, or give or take. It's about 2 hours long, rated PG. The only thing is the reviews aren't that good. Right now it has a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.8 on IMDb. Now let me just be clear. I did not see The Lion King that came out in 2019. I know. I just didn't look interesting to me. I already know the story, so I didn't feel like I needed to go see it. So that's my thought process going into this. I didn't see that, but I'm willing to see this. And after watching this, and even those reviews, the movie was not that bad. It wasn't that bad, right? It actually was quite enjoyable, but it did have some flaws. You know, this movie is basically just the story of Mufasa, you know, Simba's dad, what he went through, his relationship with who is now known as Scar, their relationship, and then how basically it got fractured as he grew up and they grew up. And that's really just the story. And, you know, this movie, I wasn't looking forward to it really. I didn't really care. But after watching it, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was an enjoyable movie. But let me go into some pros, some cons about the movie, just to expand a little more on certain things. Alright, so I think the main thing is probably the story. The story is the main thing that's going to get you hooked on this. So basically how this movie goes, it starts with the monkey really, and he's explaining a story to Simba's kid. And the story is about Mufasa. And that's interesting because they go back to them telling the story, and then they go back into the story, then they come back, and they're talking about stuff, and then they go back into the story. It's kind of interesting to see that. So that was the thing that I kind of enjoyed, along with the story itself. Just seeing how Mufasa and Scar met, and their relationship, and how things happened. It was interesting to see. You know, for the most part, it keeps you engaged. You know, the runtime, like I said, is about 2 hours, and it goes by at a decent pace. So that's another thing I liked. You know, the story just had a good pace, and the runtime didn't feel too long. And then the last thing I'll say is just the way they tie everything together. Obviously, you kind of know what's going to happen towards the end of the movie, but just how they tie certain things, certain elements of characters, and they just bring it all together. That was enjoyable, I guess. And yeah, I'd say that's mostly for the pros. It wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't movie of the year. It wasn't better than the original. You know, but let me just get into some of the cons so I can start breaking down some of the things that they could have done better. If you don't like musicals, you might not like this movie as much. Not like the whole thing, but as much. It's just, sometimes they just fill in the gaps and they're just wasting time, in my opinion. So if you don't like musicals, you might not really like this. Another thing I'll say is obviously it was predictable. You know what's going to happen at the end of the movie because Mufasa lives, because he's the main character in the main movie, Lion King. So you know he lives. And so you know what's going to happen. It's just about, I guess, the journey of if they can kind of make a good story out of it. So in that aspect, it's predictable. Along with some other areas, you just know. You're just hoping that they can deliver it right. And then this movie didn't really have a lot of high stakes. The climax in this movie, it wasn't really big. It was kind of like a slow trajectory, and then the movie ended. It didn't really feel like you were worried for any of these characters. So in that aspect, the climax was okay. I just thought it could have been better. Just more build up throughout the story. And then the last thing I'll say is that the main villain in here, I guess he is intimidating, but at the same time, I don't know, just how everything ends, it's kind of satisfying, but you could have done more. You could have given more to make it a better ending. But overall, I mean, this movie is good for what it was. I was going into this like, I bet this movie sucks. But I was pleasantly surprised. It was good. It was good enough. Gave you enough of backstory of Mufasa. But at the same time, it felt a little dull. A little generic. A little pointless. But anyways, guys, if I had to give this my ranking, I would probably give it a salty popcorn. I think that you don't need to watch this in theaters, but if you do, you'll, you know, enjoy yourself if you have people to go with. In my theater, it was just me. I was the only one there. No one showed up, so I don't know. I heard this thing's supposed to make a ton of money back, so we'll see. But in the meantime, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.